kind of paradoxical effects of downsizing seems to have been this breaking of the contract, almost like the emotional contract between the employee and the organisation. 15, 20 years ago, we expected our employees to be extremely loyal to the brand, extremely loyal to the company. And then over the past 10, 15 years, as it's been necessary to have no fault redundancies happen. And also, I suppose we're also talking about people still being, I mean, the ideal situation is they're still loyal, even the leavers are still loyal to the brand, but I think that might be a bit more difficult. Have you got any comments about that?
Firstly, I just wanted to make an additional comment to what David just said, that many companies are doing it, maybe doing it for the first time and don't do it properly. I can assure you that even companies that have done waves of restructuring still don't do it properly. and here's the reason why. Because as they do waves of retrenchments or restructuring, the players also change. Management players change. And they are doing it for the first time. And they do not take cognizance of what has happened the last time. And there's not that great knowledge management sharing all around. And that's why sometimes companies depend on outplacement firms like LHH to help them through the process. Yeah? But it doesn't mean that if you've done it once, twice, 3 times. I can tell you that in a huge company which is involved in multiple mergers and acquisitions in any given year, yeah, the largest of which more recently was the EDS merger. The waves of retrenchments are by the tens of thousands across the globe. There is no one size fits all for the way things are done in every region and globally. Yeah, and so it is very important that, especially I think if you come from smaller companies, that some of these processes and policies are actually well documented, so that if you are no longer in that position, if you're assuming you're running the redeployment program, if you are no longer in that position, somebody else can pick it up and run it well. Okay? That is to have the interest of the company in mind. Now, to the question that Andrew just posed to me, I want to answer it in a couple of ways. One is that I, as many of you would believe, that there is a proper way to do things. And I think that the proper way is to look at the change continuum that everyone, whether affected employees or employees who remain, yeah, go through when something like that happens. It is a big change. It is a big change for the company, big change for the employees that are affected and who are going to leave the company and go into uncharted territory, and the employees that remain, who may be scared to death about what's going to happen next. I think if you follow the change continuum, you will generally realize that when something like that happens, yeah, it's a loss. There is a loss. And when there is a loss, there needs to be a grieving process. And I would generally say that the first step is to be able to manage this grieving process well. Just as how you will manage, you know, if a death occurs in the family. Yeah, all the associated emotions will come into play. And there is a way to do that properly. Secondly, I think after the so-called ending or grieving period is over, I think the company or the people in the company will go through a state of flux, what I call transition. And during this phase, people sometimes are at a loss. As I said, there could be declining morale. They are at a loss as to whether they will be next on the line, you know. They are not sure where their loyalty lies anymore. They are also scared. They're trying to hang on to their job for various reasons, security, etc. And we need to manage that. I think that during this stage, the stage of transition, sometimes you need to compromise on what you would expect from your employees, because they are going through this phase, yeah, of transition or a state of flux. And then with proper guidance and hand-holding, I think employees will be able to come to the final stage And that final stage can either be called a new beginning, or that final stage can be called consolidation and moving on. Yeah. The term, you know, some of you may have heard of this buzzword that was promoted by Paul McGee called "shut up and move on." Doesn't really apply in a restructuring exercise. Everybody goes through it. It means like you have a death in the family and you tell the rest of the members of the family, shut up and move on. It doesn't work that way. There's a reason why you need to have the 3 steps. But if you are able to get to the 3rd step, I think that's a good way to consolidate, to show people that we are still a team, we value certain core values in the company, we have a mission, here's where we are at now, we are all, we've suffered a loss, but we'll get back together on our feet and move on from point A to point B. And I think that's important.
Just to add something to what you were saying, Christopher, which is interesting. There was some very in-depth studies done last year by Cornell in the US about outplacement in organizations. And what these studies showed was, and they were looking primarily at large multinational organizations that had gone through a downsizing, was to say it takes 4 months to get things back to a level of normality. Obviously, define normality in a number of ways, but it takes 4 months to get that process. And within that 4 months, it takes that time to get people to build their networks again, because the people that are remaining in the organization have lost their whole networks, to build their trust and confidence, as you say as well, but more importantly, to understand what their new roles are as well. And what was very interesting in this study was that it said that during that 4 months, many companies do have a plan, but often it's not communicated. So it's going on and things are happening, but people don't know. And some of the findings of this study, and you can find much of it online, is very interesting, of saying that if this is what this very in-depth study is showing, then companies really should have a plan over those 4 months and help people again build their networks and help those individuals that are left behind to restructure as well. And 4 months is one thing, but when you actually put it as a third of a year, it's a long time. Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.